Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel Trailhead Ranger NJ, and in our series of interview questions for the 4+ year of candidate, we have come up with another set of questions which has been asked to a candidate of ours by a Gartner. So when the candidate has appeared for the Gartner interview and the candidate was having 4+ year of experience, then they have encountered with these questions. So let's get started with it. So first of all, the first question was related to the introduction. So they have been asked to introduce themselves and about their experience in the Salesforce. So you can prepare your brief introduction while preparing for the interviews, because that would be mostly the first question that will ask to you. You can include your skill set, your experience, or maybe what some kind of achievement you have did. So these all things you can include in your experience. The next question was that how would the sales cloud differ from the experience cloud? So as the candidate was having experience in both clouds, and also the job position was required experience in sales cloud majorly, so this question came up that how does these cloud differ from each other? So the answer would be that sales cloud is related to the leads coming in, converting those leads and targeting the B2B, that is business to business, and helps in automating their sales process. But if we talk about the experience cloud, then it refers to the creation of sites for all the businesses, and it can also be customizable based on the requirements. It enables the companies to build external facing websites, portals, and applications to engage with the customers, partners, or even employees. So both are majorly different from each other. There is nothing common in these two. Both have a different significance of their functionalities and their business requirements. So let's move on to the next question, that is explain life cycle hooks of LWC. So this part we have already covered in very detail. We have a separate video for that. So that's title of that video is From Zero to Hero with LWC Lifecycle Hooks today, and I'll paste the link of that in the description box, and you can find the link of that on the top right as well. And then there was another follow-up question was the also that what about the error callback, that will it get executed before or after the disconnected callback? So the answer is the error callback will get error callback will get executed before the disconnected callback. So because as you know, or if you have gone through the video which I have mentioned on top right and the description box related to the LWC lifecycle hooks, you can know that the disconnected callbacks allows us to disconnect the LWC from the DOM. So basically we are moving away from the page, LWC is being removed, so there is no chance that it will encounter, when it will encounter the error, it will be able to show us. So all that can happen before it is getting disconnected from the DOM. So that's why error callback will get executed before the disconnected callback. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. Explain the order of execution. So in Salesforce we are having multiple operation at once, or even if you are working on a project, you might having on a single object itself you might be having one validation rule, you might be entering a record, you might be updating a record, there might be a flow, there might be a trigger. Similarly, there might be multiple things on a single object itself. So if you are having all these things on a single object, so how will that the set of operation perform, and in what sequence it will perform? So that's the question about that. So if we were to talk about the order of execution in that case, so first of all it will load the original record from the database and initialize the record for an upsert statement. Then it will load the record field values from the request and override the old values. So in case if we are having an upsert operation, if we are trying to update the record, it will update the it will load the record with the new values as we are making the changes with the new values. Then it will execute the record trigger flow. If we are having a record trigger flow in place, then it will execute that. And also if you know, record trigger flow is of two types. before save and the after save. So before save will be run here. Before save is the one that is which allows us to directly update the fields, not the fast field update but the other one. I am forgetting the type of the name of that, but yeah, you can check it out and understand it much better. So it will execute that, then it will execute all the before triggers we are having on that object, then it will execute the system validation steps and the custom validation rules as well. So the system validation steps, like suppose a field is marked as required, so it will check for that. Suppose if we are having a field of email data type and we are trying to enter some number or some other things which is not a email, so it will throw an error. So this is the system validation, and the custom validation rules you are aware, so it will throw an error for that as well. Then it will execute the duplicate rules, then it will save the record to the database, but it will not commit it yet. Then it will execute the after triggers if we are having any after triggers in place. Then it will execute the assignment rule if we are having any assignment rule in place, and it will execute that. Then it will execute auto response rules, then the workflow rules are not deprecated, but yeah, if we are having any old workflow rules as well, then also it will execute. It will execute escalation rules, then it will execute the process flows launched by the processes. So if we are having multiple processes flows, then it will, the order of that flows are not guaranteed, it depends on them. But yeah, between the escalation and the entitlement rules, the process flows will get executed. After the entitlement rule, we will be the system will execute the record trigger flow of the after save. Then if the record contains a roll up summary field, or even it is a part of a cross object, so the workflow performs the calculation and updates the roll up summary field in the parent record, and then the parent record goes to the save procedure. After this, if the parent record is updated and the grandparent record also contains a roll-up summary field, so then the grandparent record will get updated with the roll-up summary field data. Then it will execute the criteria-based sharing rules. Then it will commit all the DML operations. So if you remember, we have saved the data to the database but not committed yet. So now we are committing it. And after all the changes are committed to the database, we'll be executing post commit logic, such as sending the mail, execute an asynchronous process, or maybe sending notification. Like these all post commit changes will be executing. Now if we will move on to the next question. So next question is, what is the usage of the wire adapter in case of LWC? So wire adapters or the wire decorator are used to fetch the data and display it on the UI. These can be while if we are maybe clicking on the button, loading the page, to open up a pop-up. All these things we can achieve using the wire decorator. Now let's move further. And next question is, if you have worked on integration. So yes, I have. That could be your answer, but if you have not worked on it, you can simply say no, that is not a problem. You should be, I would suggest that you should be honest in interviews regarding such things, because in case you would say that no, I know the integration, and they'll come up with the basic questions related to the integration, you will be get caught. And even you will be answering the other questions related to Salesforce just apart from this question correct, your impression might not go good. So that's the only reason you should come up honest in such cases. Then they have asked to explain the scenario which they have worked upon related to the integration. So if you have worked upon integration, you can pick up any scenario you have worked related to the integration in your projects, or maybe multiple scenario you can explain, or maybe a single scenario. That depends on the interviewer, as well as on your time, as well as on yourself as well. Now let's move on to the next question. Next question is that how can we communicate between the the data between the flow and the LWC. So we have heard about that how we can communicate between the components, but now if we talk about that there is a data sum in the LWC or maybe in flow, and we want to communicate. So how we can do that? So we can expose the variable using the API decorator. Then there was a follow-up question to the candidate, that where do we need to declare it in LWC. So what can be done is you can declare the property in the meta file. So the flow keyword is wrong. You can declare the variable in meta file of LWC and declare the same property with the API decorator in the JS of the LWC. That would allow this variable to be exposed to the flow and to establish the communication. Now let's move on to the next question, that is, what are the ways to handle the apex call in LWCs. So we can make the apex calls in LWC by using wire decorators or even by calling the apex method imperatively. So the follow up on this question was that when should we use the wire versus the imperative approach. So for this the answer is very simple, that is, whenever you have requirement to update the data which you are fetching, then you should go for the imperative approach. But if you are having the requirement just to fetch the data and maybe display it on UI or maybe use it somewhere in your LWC, then you should go for the wire approach. So basically in the wire approach you should not perform any DML operation, and you can perform the DML operation, or if you want to update the data you can go for the imperative approach. Now moving on to the next question, that is for integration, that how would you establish the connection with a third party and do the authorization. So for this we can establish the connection using the named credential or the remote site settings, or using the connected app. So it totally depends on what kind of call we are about to make. Is it inbound call or the outbound call? So that also matters. So we can establish the connection using that. Now on the follow up, like the candidate has this question, that how would you analyze in what format we are getting the data and change it. So first of all, mostly API return data in two forms only, that is XML or on in the JSON format. So and also you can analyze the content header which we are having in our API call. If it is in the application XML format, then that means we are getting the data in XML. If it is in application slash JSON, that means we are getting the data in JSON format. And after this, if we want to pass this data somewhere and we want to utilize the data, we can pass this data using the json.deserialize, and we can use the data as per our requirement. Now let's move on to the next question, that is how do we communicate between the components of LWC. So there are basically two types of communication, that is from parent to child and from child to parent. So from parent to child we can use the API decorator, and to communicate from child to parent we can send the data using the custom event. So on this we had the follow up, that is, on the parent side do we need to add anything to receive data using custom events from the child component. So yes, basically when we are sending the custom event from the child component, we are saying that this is the event name. We are mentioning the event name in the child component. So here I had taken an example. Suppose the event name is send my data. Then on the parent side, what we have to do is on the HTML, we need to go and have the handler as in the child component declaration on send my data, and then equals to I could have the handler name, and that handler will have the data in the JS. We can utilize it as per our requirement. So that's how we need to do this. Now if we talk about the next question, that is in LWC where a large amount of data is being showed on the UI, then how to manage it performance wise and not to affect it. So for this we can utilize the functionality of pagination. Pagination allows us to show the huge amount of data in pages. So if you might have seen that we are having a list of record, and we are having page numbers maybe on bottom, on top right, that is as the client says, and then we are changing the page, then we are getting maybe first 10 records on the first page, then second 10 records on the second page. So that says that it's a pagination, and it basically enhances the performance as well. So that's why. So in the case of pagination, we can query the data using the limit and offset parameters in the SOQL in the Apex side, and from the LWC JS we can define the page size and the offset parameter, and we can pass those dynamically to the Apex. That will allow us to get the record like first 10, then second 10, then the third 10, like that we can do. Now let's move on to the third question. Next question, that is, what is the difference between insert and the database dot insert? So basically, insert is a normal DML operation, but the database dot insert is a dynamic operation. So in case of the dynamic operation, what happens is, suppose we are having 100 records on which we are performing the DML operation. So on this 100 records, we are performing maybe update operation, and due to some maybe validation rule, I would say, or some anything, there is an error occur. So 90 records has been passed, like 90 records are or can be updated, they are having the correct data, but for the 91st record there is some error, and that cannot be updated because of that error. So in case of normal DML operation, what will happen, all of the 100 records will get rolled back, and we will have only we will have error at the end, we will not be having any successful records updated. But in case of database dot insert, we are having a possibility or a functionality that we will pass a false parameter there, which gives us option to save the successful records which are being updated, but leave the rest of the record which are getting error as it is, or not being updated at that time. So basically, I would say it allows us to perform half DML operation at a time. In but normal DML operation allow us to roll back all the data at once. So yeah, that's for this. Now moving on to the next question, that how can we exactly check that which records are being filled. So as I said, for the first of all, we can utilize this using the dynamic DML operation data, that is database dot insert, database dot update, like this. And in that case, we could in the example statement, you can see that I have entered list of records on which we want to perform the DML operation, and then a false parameter, and we can store this data in this database dot save result array, and then we can check for this result if it is success or fails. Using that, we can check exactly which record are being failed, and we can even display those on the UI if required. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What is the difference between the custom metadata types and the custom setting? So custom metadata can be deployed, but the custom settings cannot be deployed. Custom metadata can be queried via SOQL in the Apex, but custom settings cannot be queried. And the custom metadata can be governed by the DML limits, but the custom settings are not. So these are some of the difference. So they both are having different significant for their requirements in the business, and we utilize both, but majorly custom metadata. So for this next question, we are having that if we are hitting the governor limits, example 101 query error, even if code is using all the best practices, then what are the possibilities? So they are mentioning that code is using best practices. If they are not mentioning that, then there are some of the errors you can think of, that is avoiding the recursive trigger operation. So we can avoid that by using the static variable or maybe a boolean variable. We could think of the bulkification. We could think that they are ensuring that there are no hidden queries in maybe helper method, flows, or anywhere else which are firing repeatedly. We can remember the limits which are shared across the apex flows and the trigger, so that also needs to be taken care of. Then we can move the heavy logic to the asynchronous, so that our code is not lagging behind. And we can even optimize the data model, that is rollups, index fields, or the custom fields. We can take care of that as well. So that is all the question which has been asked for the Gartner interview for the 4+ year candidate in the L1 round. So that was the round 1, and the candidate has recently shared these questions with us. So these are the recent questions for the L1 round that has been asked for the Salesforce developer role for the 4+ year candidate. So if you learn something here with me, and if you like the video, Please like it and subscribe the channel, and you can let me know in the comment section if you are having any doubt or maybe any opinion and suggestion for me as to on which topic you want me to make video on related to the Salesforce. I'll be happy to help. And thank you. Stay tuned for more such videos on Trailhead Ranger NJ channel. Thank you.